back in the studio for Yonkers This Week with Mayor Mike Spano. Joining us now is Dan Minerva, Vice President of Empress Emergency Medical Services, which provides emergency medical transportation all throughout Yonkers and New York State. Dan, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So let's jump right in and talk about your company and its relation to Ebola. When did you really start talking to your team about what to do in the case of an Ebola situation?
Well, we've been preparing for it for quite some time now. When we first heard of the first case and about all the recent travel of coming back to New York State, especially with having JFK being one of the only receiving airports, we thought it was important to train our guys and start preparing. How the first way we prepared was that we met with the Yonkers Fire Department, Yonkers Police Department, and our medical director, and we discussed the pre-screening of the live call taker, which is the first point of contact. So when someone would call up and say, "Oh, I've have a fever or abdominal pain or vomiting," we've trained all of our dispatchers, Yonkers police dispatchers, to ask the appropriate questions. Have you traveled recently, and have you traveled to one of those affected countries in West Africa?
And now, before we had you on today, we were talking about how some of those questions have shifted, where maybe oftentimes before you asked if they'd traveled, but now that's maybe one of the first questions that you're asking.
Correct. We always use this emergency medical dispatch as our protocols, and they give you a list of criteria to follow on what kind of response someone gets. So if they get lights and sirens, do they get immediate live caller assistance, meaning CPR over the phone or how to deliver a baby? We've always asked those questions. So now we just had to tailor those a little bit to not only fever or flu-like symptoms, but actually we added the travel portion into it.
And you were in attendance at this summit that we've mentioned, yes, where we gathered city services, hospitals. What was that like?
Correct. It was a great event for all the city officials to get together. And the nice part about it was that the EMS, police, and fire have already trained for that summit. So we were a very big part in that summit, preparing all the rest of the officials of the city of Yonkers.
And now let's talk about an actual vehicle and what that looks like to treat an Ebola patient. How is it different from just any other ambulance that you might have?
The ambulance itself is basically the same, but the inside of the vehicle is completely covered in probably 3 to 6 millimeter plastic, and everything is covered. There's nothing open, nothing exposed. And the inside of the cab, where the drivers would sit, is not plastic. It's everything in the outside. But the crew members inside are all wearing their protective gear, respirators, and masks and goggles, and to protect them also.
And you mentioned that your team is all prepared. So I want to talk about your relationship to the county as a whole as being one of the largest emergency transportation services.
So, this is new to everyone, but this is not new to the city of Yonkers and to our employees and to the Yonkers Fire Department and Police Department. We have been training for this kind of stuff for years now. We have a 30-member Special Operations Division team that already has these suits, that the protective personal equipment suits called PPE, that we will be using. We already have these suits. When the rest of the country now is having trouble obtaining them, we already have them. We trained all of our 250 employees. They carry these suits with them on every call, and along with the fire department also, they have the suits also. And we've instructed everyone to treat every call basically like some kind of flu-like epidemic, basically.
And to really err on the side of caution.
Correct.
So what's your overall message either to your team or to residents of Yonkers or just anyone in general on what to
do? The residents of Yonkers should feel safe. They should feel safe. They should know that basically the city of Yonkers has taken the lead for the whole county when it comes to Ebola preparation and transportation and for treatment. The Department of Health has looked to us for helping them with any cases that they have. And so what I would say to the public is that we are in not a rush. We have time. Someone who is presenting with these problems, it's normally not life-threatening in the beginning. So we will make the appropriate phone calls to the Department of Health, to our medical directors, and all very cautious about how we enter into a scene, who gets transported, who doesn't.
And it's taking that time that's really going to help in the long run in the event that we have a situation. And that way, mistakes aren't made and that everybody is as prepared and following the correct protocol.
Sure. And if there is a case, we have a protocol in place who responds. So Empress would respond with a 3-member team. The police department will respond with the emergency services unit. They will protect the outside of the building just in case somebody needs isolation. And the fire department will be there also if we need any kind of to decon the crews or the patient.
So it really does seem like everyone's on the same page, Mayor.
Just to brag a little bit, we had a press availability yesterday, and the press came and spent a little time listening to what was going on. But what they missed was when the Westchester County Department of Health actually stood up and said that Yonkers was one of the leaders here, and that the rest of the county would be taking their lead. And that was, we kind of hoped, from a selfish point of view, that the press was there for that. But that was a compliment to all of to Empress. That was a compliment to Empress, the police department, the fire department, because they have truly been working on this for quite some time. Now it's just making sure that everyone else was clued in on the procedures. So we had good policies that would protect our communities.
So it certainly sounds like that summit, programs like this, and just any other general information is really going to help the public in the long run.
Absolutely, and Empress does a great job for Yonkers. Each and every day they're there to protect us, and Empress has been doing it for as long as I can remember. So I just want to say thanks to Dan and to the rest of the team for doing a great job each and every day. They really work hand in glove with the other first responders, whether it's the fire department or the police department, and I think the people of our city are very well served by their services.
Dan, certainly thanks for joining us today, and Mayor, as always, thanks for being here. To stay informed about Ebola, visit the Centers for Disease Control